Good afternoon, everyone. I'm welcome to the graveyard shift, and I'm going to hopefully, I'll explain why it's all green screen in a minute, but I'm hopefully give you talk through a few different things this afternoon. How am I best? Well, I gave myself a list. The problem with me and presentations is I'm also another one that could sit on the cognitive panel. I have a horrendous short-term memory. These slides are for me. They're not for you. Otherwise, I have no idea what it is I'm supposed to be talking about. But I can also talk for England being ADHD, so we could be here for quite a while. So there to keep me on track as well. So I'm going to try and talk. Who am I? I think we've already answered that one. This is good. 1 of 4 done. Why am I here? I could do the rest of the evening on that one. Why? What, a little bit of dyslexic, what am I going to talk about, and am I lost? Probably. So, yes, be gentle with me, give me a prod in the right direction if you think I need to. So, yeah, welcome aboard the ADHD Express. I'm going to talk a little bit about my own background and where gaming started in my life. I mean, this is literally was where gaming started in my life, which was Colossal Adventure 1979. I'm now showing my age. And absolutely phenomenal thing. Played on a machine that looked like that. Our school had 2 of them. This is way before BBC Micros and any of that posh stuff. That had colours and stuff like this. These things were fantastic. They took forever to load, constantly broke down, and there was a crowd of kids around them trying to map an adventure game out, arguing about where the narrative was branching. It was collaborative gaming every single lunchtime. Around 2 of these machines, and I absolutely loved it. My other experience was Pong, which I had a machine that looked rough. I think it was actually one of these. It was rubbish. It was great fun, though. It was great. So there were 2 experiences, really, of gaming in those days. You were either playing these wonderful branching narrative text adventures, or you were just playing things that were just the arcade machines cut down and stuck in the home. Which also, this was another game that I played a lot around my friend's house because he had the first ever home computer that was ever released, the ZX80. This you bought as a kit, you soldered it together yourself, mostly wrong, and then had to get your dad to fix it. It was his dad, because he was an engineer from Shell, and his dad had one of these, a TRS-80, amazing. It was incredible, 16K. And we would play Space Invaders. And again, go back to the arcades. This was our experience. It was arcade in the home. And eventually I had one of these in Intellivision. Now, there is a point to all of this. And and to the Spectrum, where suddenly it all exploded, when suddenly in the early 80s, we had suddenly all these home computers and the VIC-20 and everything else that suddenly became really, really, really popular. And every kid could access to original gaming rather than just copycat arcade gaming or dreadful sports gaming on a grandstand machine. But the thing that I'm really glad Barry talked about what Barry talked about before, because I was looking at all those and going, hang on a minute, there was speech in and speech out on all of those machines through additional peripherals. And I had 3 of these things. I had the top left, middle, and the bottom right. And there was already accessibility opportunity. Barry's shown us from the physical point of view of input controls and outputs and from a speech point of view. So much of this stuff you talk about, and the principles are still the same. We're now contextualizing them better with human beings and being more creative with them. But it's not new. But skip to the end. I kind of went off on one a couple of days ago and started writing an entire history of my experience of video games, and then realized that wasn't the talk. That was it. Thank God he was starting to sound like my dad. So it's probably for most of you. But yes, so... the important bits of history. So I set up, in 2005, I set up the accessibility team at the BBC. There wasn't one before. There were lots of people doing all sorts of wonderful and amazing things. I'm going to get to one of them in a minute. But there was no team as such. The interesting bit follows. This was a guy, actually, who's kind of responsible for me being here. I was at the BBC making TV trails, and one of my kids has cerebral palsy. He was about 6 at the time. And there were a couple of Switch games that were on CBeebies, and the rest of it was absolutely rubbish as far as accessibility was concerned. There were bits and pieces that were trying here and there. It was a real mixed bag, but I was just sat there thinking, this is dreadful. He was behind, it was him and Cecilia. I've forgotten Cecilia's second name. Ian, help me out. That's it. And so they were doing some amazing stuff in CBBS. He was growing out, my son was growing out CBB stuff into CBBC. The argument for me went, well, that's great. You've just built up a relationship and thrown it away, by him progressing through your brands. Ian, after leaving the BBC, obviously has done amazing things. He got me involved in the first draft of this. I'm not quite sure why my name's still up there. I don't think I've done anything to help you with this for a while. I'm still quite proud of my involvement in it. And if you don't use the game's accessibility guidelines, you really should. And I also blame Ian for me being here because he set up a breakfast for me and David in March of this year. And it was just supposed to be a very hungover me, probably talking to a very hungover you. About a few things that you wanted to talk through because you are sort of new into the politics of all of this within a large organisation. I've been doing this a long time, tried out lots of different things, and yes, if it wasn't for that breakfast, I would not be stood here now. I've actually spent the last, I don't know how long, trying to remember what the hell I said. So if it is all wrong, shout. But really, I mean, where David was at the point, he sort of was going, I understand there are rules, I understand there is gameplay, I understand there's things to do, but none of it seems to, it's like a mashup of insanity. And there are moments where we're getting achievement, we can go up ladders, grab hammers, I don't know why there is a ball going across. And you were just trying to make sense of a large organisation with history and complexity. Kind of looked a bit like this. There is stuff going on. There seems to be a path. Everything is being thrown in, and it's trying to find a way through all of this. Actually, it looked more what you saw. It sounded like Jeff Minter had designed the politics of your organisation because you were just sitting back going, whoa, whoa. I love Space Giraffe, by the way. As far as if you want cognitive overload, this is my go-to place. I just sit there and go, wow, I don't know what's going on. And I love it so much. I absolutely love that game. If anyone can actually understand the rules to it, please let me know. In fact, don't. Actually, it'll spoil it. So David was a bit like this. He was completely, I'm not quite sure it's brain freeze or just about to shoot himself in the head with his fingers. And our breakfast looked better than blue ice cream. But it was quite an interesting meeting. We went through a few things, and hopefully I'm going to, and I've already said, he knows Ian, which was the big problem at the end of it. It's why I'm here. I forgot I put that slide. There you go. This is the cognitive memory thing. So I kind of boiled it down to 5 things, which I think kind of hopefully sum up some of the stuff that you've found useful. And it might be, you all might be doing this sort of stuff already, and I hugely apologize in advance if this is, I'm just saying a lot of obvious stuff for the next 5 minutes, but you seem to find it useful, and I've tried lots of stuff, by the way, I've had 15 years of failure to find my little pinnacles of bits of success within it, and so, and I think that's kind of one of those things is great thing about this room is I think we should share the things that don't work as well as the things that work, because then it stops other people trying them. So this is 5 things: boss fight, brand values, cutscenes, team versus army, achievements, quest and items. The weirdest thing, the first thing I told you was do the boss fight first, but defeat by diplomacy. Every organisation has got at least one person in it that I think looks a little bit like this in everyone's mind, is absolutely terrifying, and everyone is terrified of. They need to be the person that you start with and that you win over. The last thing you want to do is continuously take on the most scary person. Who here is from a large organisation? There's a show of hands, quite a lot of you. Small gaming companies, you've probably still got one, you can have a team of 3 people and still have one terrifying one. But they're the one, I've been there, you still, that is the person that you need to turn into your best friend. And everyone else needs to see that, sees the big, scary, terrifying monster, and you need Yoshi in your life. They will take down everything without actually having to do anything. They're the person, when you turn up in a meeting, they sit next to you, and the tone changes because they go, scary person's there. Really, really, really important. And it's not one of those things that you've got to batter them into submission to do this. You've got to get them to embrace that, actually, this is a really good thing to do. And I'm going to talk a little bit how to do that. Yeah, there are ultimate weapons that you never use, and there are unveiled, there are, sort of little threats. So I've always loved this idea, this concept in my head of what level would you like me to embarrass you at, as a question to ask anyone. Because if you know you've actually won the argument all the way to the top organization, no one is ever going to escalate. And so it gives you a lot of power. And as long as you wield that power with a lot of sort of respect for other people, and you do it correctly, and you do it intelligently, then this is something, then, the notion of this email is mightier than the dubstep gun. It really is. It's also, this is about your brand as an organization, big or small. Storylines are as important as gameplay. And there are so many organizations that seem to get this wrong around accessibility. They start from a legal framework. They start from a worthy framework. They don't realize this is actually around organizational culture. And sometimes an organization forgets that. Domino's forgot this. Now, I found that whole case, it was depressing. But I thought I'll do what I did do with my own organization, the BBC, in the early days, is I'm going to read all their corporate documentation and see what it says. And quite fascinatingly, you suddenly realize that they're making some big mistakes here. So a quote from me is, for our customers, this means transforming everyday moments into something more special, whether it's relaxing at home or gaming with friends or brainstorming at work. Domino's makes the experience 11 out of 10. Now, I see accessibility as part of the experience, and that's certainly not 11 out of 10. Going into their values, and I'm sorry for doing a bit of Domino's bashing, guys, on the internet, but actually it's one of those things I think is quite important. And there's a lot of organizations that get this stuff wrong. They say, our passion is built into the values we share at Domino's. These guide our everyday actions across the business, from our stores through to our supply chain centers to head office. We believe in embracing community, inspiring solutions, uncommon honesty. We promise our customers we will inspire through our actions, give exceptional service at all time. And then at the end, we promise other team members we will make disciplined decisions, champion our customers, respect others. And the last thing that they now can't do because of what happened, they can't celebrate success. If they'd have done all of those other things, they would have come out being an incredibly successful, great stories to come out of this. And they've got a lot to climb back, and I'm sure they will. Like a lot of organizations, sometimes going through the pain is the thing that they need to do. Other organizations kind of embrace it and just suddenly realize this is about us, because we've always been saying this. And these two things became disconnected for Domino's, which I think is where their problem lies. It's nice with the BBC because it's, again, I just look at what there was already there. On the back of all our passes, which is a great thing, we have our values on the back of our security passes. Audiences are at the heart of everything we do. And we respect each other and celebrate our diversity so everyone can give their best. You start tagging everything on and just saying, this is the reason why I'm doing this. Every single Director General has pretty much said the same thing in different ways. And Tony Hall, who's our current DG, just says the BBC is for everyone. And so you can just put, if you're not accessible, it can't be for everyone. By not doing accessibility, we're undermining our own corporate strategy. And as soon as you start putting things in those kind of frameworks, it suddenly becomes why wouldn't we do this? It's no longer a question of why would. There are lawyers involved in all of this still. I've already said you don't need to. I find lawyers incredibly useful because I think still you always need to understand, like any organization, like anything that you do that has a legal aspect, sit down, talk to the lawyers and just say, give me a document that actually explains what it is our responsibilities are. Not what the minimum requirements are, just what is the legal thing. And give them a few contexts. Give them some scenarios and say, well, if this happened, how would we deal with this? Lawyers are absolutely incredibly useful because still going back to that first thing of bringing the boss on side, that is one of the questions they're going to ask. And it's more around, law is not just about litigation, it's also reputational risk. It's also about responsibility. There's an Employment Act, and we need to be responsible to our staff, so we have to understand the Employment Act. But the lawyers are incredibly useful on that. They're a great group of people, and they should not be the people that you go to at time of desperation. They're people that you go to for guidance. The other thing is you need allies, and this is one of the things is I wish something like this existed when we started. There was so little out there. There were virtually no accessibility conferences in the world when we set up. There was probably, I think CSUN was still going, but that was on the other side of the world. And I hardly knew anyone. There was a handful of people in the UK that you'd sort of track down and pick the brains of. And these days, not only you've got this amazing community here of people to call upon and have breakfast with who will land you in trouble and get you on stage, but you also need these allies in your organization. I was lucky. I was able to hire 3 people. We were part of the team that built the first iPlayer. We were given absolute free rein because the exec said to us, we don't get this accessibility thing. We know we're getting it wrong in all sorts of places. Can you go and figure it out on one product? And from what you learn, we can then start making that, the goodness of that spread across the organization. And we spent like 4 years just on pretty much on, focusing on one product as a team to try and understand how to do this. No one had built a VOD service before. We were building the first, large-scale VOD service in the world. And, so there was no precedent. We didn't know. We had television, and we said, we'll make it at least as accessible as TV. So therefore, we had to do audio description, we had to do signing, we had to do subtitling before we'd even decided what the hell we were doing with the product that was going to deliver it. So there was a huge amount. And the other thing is, that's the team, but you need the army. The army is the people across the organization who are interested. So I told David, just reach out and just find anyone that's interested. They don't have to be an expert. If someone feels like this is the right thing to do, is reach out to them. I've got Emma in the audience. Give us a wave, Emma. Emma runs our Accessibility Champions Network. Now, we started off with the Accessibility Group, I think we used to be called, and then that became the Accessibility Champions in about 2012, around the time of the Olympics, well, probably about 2010, 2011, before the Olympics. And that group helped us write guidelines. They helped us make decisions that we could spread across the entire organization. We ended up creating subgroups out of that. Everyone who was interested in semantics, come along at lunchtime, we'll surprise some sandwiches, and let's all just make a decision of how many headings we have on every page. Let's all do things uniformly, and let's make little decisions, uniformly across the organization and just keep moving it and keep moving it. We're in a good position now, but it's taken us 15 years to get there. And each one of those, you did little battles. And we had a small group of us that were looking at gaming and interaction. We did our first little gaming and interaction guidelines around flash games. And that all kind of spurned all the sort of stuff that we were trying to do. And we were able to then take the stuff out of CBeebies and take it to learning and saying, they've already proven this stuff works. They've done the work for you. Here's something, and then they could apply it, and they didn't have to do the research. You spend a lot of time working in accessibility being a dating agent. This is what I find, and there's someone over there who's got certain interests, and then someone over there who's got certain interests, and you set up a candlelit breakfast. Before you know it, everyone's on stage. And Ian was one of those. I think you turned up to the first meeting. I just sent out an email. I got permission to send out a division-wide email, and most of us were in West London at the time. There was a couple of the teams in other places, but most of us were in West London. And I just said, come along to the boardroom. I don't know. And it was hammered, absolutely packed with people going, right, what's happening? What's going on? I had no plan whatsoever. I wasn't expecting, 2 people, 3 people. And then I found all these amazing people who had loads of areas of expertise. And then we started pulling all of this stuff together. This was the other thing. So where do you start? And with all of these things, that was the biggest problem we had at the time. And this was that, there's so many ways of saying this, but how do you boil an ocean? You boil it one kettle at a time. You've got to pick the things that you do. And there's been so much talked about today. There is so much richness and so much value in what we're doing. And it's really, really hard. And it's really tempting to have a go at everything. And you can find out that sometimes you might make that work. And other times that might be really, really, really difficult to do. And so you have to make some decisions. As I say at the bottom, it's a campaign, it's not a battle. And you can lose lots of battles in your campaign. That's okay as long as the campaign continues. I'm going to pick 4. and plug our guidelines. But it's one of these things where pick a few, and these are just 4 examples of ways that I would go about doing them. And we've got many that we focus on. And go and get an agreed list, get a strategy together and take it to the person who's the big scary person and get them, or people, and get them to buy into it. Get the organization to understand that, you know what we can do, we can add an enormous amount of value, we can bring so much richness into what we do. And, I'm not, don't ask for the earth. We've still only got a team of like 6, 7 people head count. Well, we're down on the head count in a minute, but we've got very, very small head count, and the champions scale us to, I've kind of an army of 200 people run by, a small team of 5, I think, at the minute. But, if you were looking at captioning or subtitling, you look at all of the opportunities that this brings. Don't sell in the worthy, sell in the worthwhile. And again, there's a lot of people who don't sell in the legal requirements for it. There are so many opportunities. We know, in children's, just on children's iPlayer, there's like 40% of the programs, the subtitles are switched on. Kids are using it as, parents are using it as a reading aid. Kids are learning to read along with what they're listening to. It's a great way of learning language. Or kids who've grown up and, English is their second language. They're learning their second language through this. And you get a lot of adults that are doing that as well. There are so many opportunities. When we start talking to our users, they're accessing our stuff in public spaces, while they're with friends. It does reduce cognitive load. It makes so you get longer engagement times. There are all sorts of reasons why to do this. And by the way, I will plug our subtitle guidelines. 47 years of research has gone into them. We've been doing this research since 1972, and we launched the first service in 1979. There is bucket. You want to know how big subtitles should be on any screen size, on any viewing distance, it's all in there. If you want to know how to convey humor, it's in there. What if someone's not on the screen? It's in there. And really, there's a language that's already been invested in by the audience. They've learnt this. Don't reinvent the wheel. This is something else where the wheel is pretty much established. Go and pull from this, and you'll find stuff in all sorts of subject areas in different places. Remappable controls. It was quite interesting. I've heard this sort of talked about, and I was like, hang on a minute. There's like about half my ZX Spectrum games you could do that. And if you could do that in a 48K game, why can't we do that on everything now? And it's that whole thing of muscle memory is something that a lot of people invest a lot of their life in. And every time you give them another schema, they have to reinvest a whole load of time learning a new load of muscle memory. And it's just simply, okay, give them something that you think will work for your game, or even, comply to something that you think is a standard way of doing it, but give the users the choice, because they go, no, that doesn't work for me. This will make me enjoy the game. My learning experience of how to play the game will be less less complicated, less strenuous, and I'll get into the enjoyment of the game quicker. And that's for everyone. Color contrast is, again, this gets covered so many times here. Who's involved in mobile gaming here? There's a few of you. Really, this should be like number one thing for you guys as far as the amount of young people who turn the brightness controls down on their mobile phones to save battery, and they still want to play games, they still want to go on social media. And the one thing you do, if your contrast isn't right, they can't use your game in a low brightness mode. So, get them out in ambient lighting, bright sunshine, get them to turn the brightness right down. Can they still play your game? That's where you need to test this stuff. It's really, really, really useful. Audio design as well is an enormous side of stuff. There's so many really beautiful examples of this where people can actually almost tell the story from what's going on and learn from the movies. Everyone, whoa, there's a hole there. That would have been a good exit. Health and safety. Where was I? Yeah, Darth Vader's theme. Everyone knows it, and they always play it before he arrives. You build up dramatic expectation through music. You let people know that you're in a large hall or a small... Have footsteps changing depending on your environment. Give people all sorts of information. The sound effects in TV and film have been doing this stuff for decades. And it is really good in a lot of places in games. In Zelda, it's phenomenal. The messages they give through, the different characters are appearing, the storyline is suddenly turning into something dangerous, and the mood of the music changes. All of these wonderful clues. Actually, I've just remembered one that Jamie spotted, actually to do with captions, which I really like, which was a cognitive thing. Totally unrelated. Brain's just gone off, and one says, "Tell them about that." Is when we put out the Avengers films. I didn't realise this had happened. He went, "Oh, that was brilliant." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, all the Hulk's subtitles were in green, and all of Iron Man's were in red, and Captain America's were in blue." So I knew who was talking, because they're colour coordinated. It was actually the subtitler just did it totally randomly and thought it was a good idea. And no one had asked them to do it. And he was like, "That is absolutely phenomenal." And it gave him that, because he has a real problem if sometimes following who is speaking at that point. And that's one of the things, it will tell you, the subtitle by changing colour will tell you it's a different person, they won't necessarily tell you which. And remember, this is an open world quest. I mean, what we do at the BBC is perfectly good for the BBC. It's like many things. There's a lot of organisations that do things that are really good because they're built around the way that organisation is doing. Learn from them and draw from them what's relevant to you, but you've all got to kind of make this up as you're going along in your own space, because every organisation has a slightly different culture, has a different audience, has a different take on what they're doing as a product, a different thing that they want to convey, a different way they want to engage. And so contextualise this always in what you're doing. And then you'll end up with, this is the Colossal Adventure, by the way, as a map. I didn't draw this. We never got this far. Arguments probably started out about where they were, and people were talking over the top of it, and it never went well. But this was kind of the thing that we quested. You will find that your quest will have a map around these things, and you'll start pulling this together over time. Particularly in larger organisations, there is a political map to dealing with this. And everyone is going to experience something different. By the way, this is another, I haven't played this for too long now, but we all played this at home. I absolutely love Animal Crossing. There is actually, is there a purpose to Animal Crossing, apart from it's just pure joy and fun? And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's great. I'm catching bugs and running around and giving presents to unicorns. I don't know why. And there's weird things you can learn in there when you get into the feng shui in it, and the way that you can improve luck in the game by the way that you arrange your furniture. And stuff like that. It's an extraordinary. But the thing is, no one has the same experience of the game. This is going to be the same with accessibility for you. It's all of your own stories. But they're really, really important to share, and there's loads of commonality between it, and there's loads of stuff that you can come together, and you can visit each other's worlds like you can here. I love going, we used to go to each other's towns and mess things up. And no, we used to have fun, and it was really good. And you go and do little adventures together, and I used to like it. I really haven't played this for too long, and it was a real thief of time for me. It's like, where's today gone? And it's been a fishing challenge day, and there goes Saturday. But you'd walk down the street, and you walk past with someone else with a 3DS, and the 3DS, they would shake hands, and they'd come and visit your town, and it's someone you've never met before. I just loved it. It's an amazing game. And you're also going to be in PacMan as well, because you'll be like, how many times have I been through this conversation? And it will go over and over and over again, and the ghosts will move in a slightly different way, but you're still munching pills against electronic music in a darkened room like the 1980s. But it's that repetitive thing is something that you have to take on board. It gets frustrating, but you meet people that you're talking to them for the first time about this stuff, or it just didn't land like next time, and you have to be really, really, really kind, and and then go outside and chew your own trousers in frustration, and then come back with a smile on your face. But you have to learn the politics, but it does feel like this sometimes, and sometimes it's just bloody weird. Goat Simulator. No one understands what's going on. And just go with it. This seems to be working. I don't know why there's a giraffe in the room, but we're okay. And you need as well, I mean, this is one of the things I forgot to make the point earlier, and I'm going to use this slide to do it, is the whole thing about winning is actually a currency. And so when you're dealing with people who are product owners, or dealing with people who are heads of design, or dealing with people whoever, is support them to own this. Don't own it yourself. The organization has to own it, because it literally, from a kind of cruel point of view, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, then it's over for the organization. It all has to be about them. And let them, all our product owners in the BBC own accessibility. We just support them in owning it. And when it goes really, really well, they take the credit because they delivered it. And we'll stand alongside them and help them achieve the next thing and help them achieve the next thing. So you kind of become a consultant in your own organization, a coach, all sorts of things that you have to do. But don't try and do it on your own. But credit is a great way of dealing with stuff.
Hey, you acted like it was going to be like
I've totally forgotten to tell everyone why I did it in green screen.
Oh.
Absolutely brilliant. One of the things I forgot, Stephen mentioned it earlier on the cognitive panel about green. Now, there's a syndrome called Irlen syndrome, which is around, some people call it visual dyslexia, or there's all sorts of odd names for it, but it has a name. Not everyone with dyslexia has it. A lot of people with dyslexia have it. It means that you get real heavy visual stress. You don't have to have dyslexia to have it. People who get real trouble and see things moving, and when it's really high contrast, it'd be really a problem. I loved green screens. They're great. I get quite a bit of it. Not horrendous. It's, a lot of people get it worse than me. Green screens. Green is right bang in the middle of the colour spectrum. It's the easiest colour for your brain to deal with. Red and blue are at either end. And this was great. And then we lost it because someone decided on coloured monitors were a good thing. But it's amazing what you lose in the goodness. But there was research that said this makes people look at monitors for longer. And this is why they were green and not black and white. But we lose things. It's another thing that's been lost in history. I'll bring them back, green screens.
Look, it's the first step in the journey of bringing it back.